All right, fantastic to be here today with David Poxon and from Velvet. We've got some questions we'd love to ask you on behalf of the students. Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Why don't you quickly tell us, can you tell us in less than 1 minute, just for those who may have missed your presentation in the class, what it actually is Velvet is going to do?
Yeah, so in a real short soundbite, we're being described as sort of the Uber for the internet. Locally, what we're trying to do is sort of create Australia's largest shared Wi-Fi network, and so people can share their internet on our network, and they sort of get paid for sharing their internet with other people.
Yep.
And the people who are using that can then get online really quickly, no setup costs. They get good quality internet at a very competitive rate. So we're trying to sort of connect Australia with good quality internet at a reasonable price.
Cool. I mean, one of the challenges for all entrepreneurs is that you have a set of expectations, and the further you move towards your dream, you realise that some of your expectations are you're not going to cut it or they're misguided. So in answering these questions for our students, we take that view too, that this is your position today and that your answers may change as you get even further down the track, but it gives us something to work with. And so the first thing the students work with is this notion of a resource profile, which is your social, human and financial capital. So with where your thinking is at the moment in the development of Velvet, do you think you know who you need to know in order to actually succeed?
No. We know some people that we need to know, but I think that there are a lot of people that we need to meet along the way to get to where we want to be.
Are they of a business acumen or a technical nature?
Both. So, with what we do now, it really meets sort of a really shallow need. We are at just scratching the surface at what's possible with respect to sharing internet. So we'd love to bring in people who have technical expertise to sort of really sort of accelerate that and make that far more powerful than it is now.
Yeah, cool. And that sort of leads into the second part of that question, which is what do you need to know as well? So it's that. And but apart from that, I think that the other thing for us is kind of knowing the people who with the networks that can take us from where we are to the next level, the people who open the doors to move upwards. If this pen I have here was a magic wand and I could give you access to any resource that you would like, are there any other resources that you currently don't have access to?
What would make us grow very, very, very quickly is capital.
Yep.
We are communications, relatively, whether you're looking at a national level or the consumer level, telecommunications is expensive from an infrastructure point of view. So that costs money. With more capital, more people on deck, and things can happen far more quickly for us.
We get the students to think about notions of legitimacy. There's two types that they're going to be thinking about. One is cognitive legitimacy, which is the extent to which Velvet has already achieved this sort of taken for granted aspect in people's thinking in the market. So how close do you think you are from not having to explain yourself every time you tell people what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that we're still a little far away from that for a couple of reasons. People understand Wi-Fi. People know what Wi-Fi is. You say get on the Wi-Fi, they get that. People even have an idea of what Wi-Fi sharing is. But when you kind of ask them what do you think Wi-Fi sharing means, there's a really wide array of answers. And so for us, that is still really not part of the social knowledge of what is Wi-Fi sharing, how does it work, and how does it work for me.
And in terms of the stakeholders that you've already identified as being related to the development of Velvet, to what extent do they all approve and or disapprove of your intentions?
Yeah, so definitely the people who we want to actually be using our customers, they're very supportive, and we've seen that through several different kind of channels. The corporate interests are it's a bit of a mixed bag. We've certainly had some people come out fighting against us on more than one occasion, and we've had other people, sort of organisations who are, well, maybe this is something that we can work with. So it's a bit of a mixed bag on that side.
Cool. One of the things that we want the students to contemplate is the extent to which you, in this context, and other entrepreneurs can understand how the market changes. You want to change this space, this Wi-Fi space.
Yes.
So, and we talk about this notion of variation, selection and retention. So, new ideas come along, some are selected for favourably or rejected, and old ways. And we actually use the keyboard as a classic example. The QWERTY keyboard was designed to slow down typing 80 years ago. And now that we don't have typing keys, we don't need to slow down typing, but we're stuck with it.
Right.
Because it would cost too much in productivity for the world to change from that layout to something that's quicker and more efficient, right? Because we'd have to relearn, unlearn and relearn. Yep. So in terms of the world that you're viewing for Velvet, how confident are you that you understand how variations, new ideas come into this space and succeed or fail?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that's really close to my heart, because in our environment, we have Wi-Fi, and that's generally powered by sort of fixed line internet, or NBNs or ADSLs. But then you've got this other thing over here called 4G and wireless broadband, and that's getting faster and faster. And people are sort of talking about 5G and that kind of thing. And so it's really interesting for us. Well, what's going to win out here? I mean, I have some opinions on that, but it's kind of like VHS versus beta. It's going to be it's a battle. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and I'm on one side. Yeah. And
can you back them all? Can you back all the?
Well, we're certainly. It's something that
Can we make it for Wi-Fi just vanilla? Can we?
Well, I mean, it's a technology, and certainly, mobile broadband is starting to actually leach into Wi-Fi. A thing called LTE. I don't want to sort of get into the complexities, but there's certainly a way where these things can actually work hand in hand. And what's really cool for us is that there's certain technologies that are sort of becoming a bit more popular, where we can talk about handoffs, where people who are on mobile broadband can get handed off onto wireless networks, or sort of Wi-Fi networks.
Thinking about this environment, what do you think are the factors that most work against your current development of Velvet?
The most what works against us most is the physical limitations of the communication channel. So with Wi-Fi, you can only go so far as the hardware allows it. The signal can only go as far as the hardware allows. More powerful signal costs more money to develop, and in a consumer market, it's hard to sort of really convince them to spend that money.
Okay, and what factors do you think are directly working in the favour of the development of Velvet?
Yeah, so what works in our favour is that everyone wants internet access. I mean, it's the new it's a new element in the hierarchy of needs, right? We've got water, food, electricity, and now internet, and so that mass adoption is really in our favour. And there's two things that people want more than anything else when it comes to the internet. They want quality and they want good price.
Yeah.
And we deliver on the quality, and our service is about delivering on the price.
Cool. Historically, when we've talked about how do you create value, we've thought about things like value chains, raw inputs into higher order or value goods, value shop for service providers, And then when you also think about this notion of a value network, it would seem that your idea is really trying to cash in on this whole networked economy. That's where the value is really to be created.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a simple answer, isn't it?
Yeah. So our network, it becomes every new person that joins us, our network becomes that much more valuable.
So it would seem that the tricky part of that is that's where the value is to be created, but having an easy solution of how to capture the value.
Yeah.
You create the value, so you've already got your technical capacity to create it. So how to actually capture it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So definitely one of the biggest challenges for us, aside from the technical, aside from the resources and whatnot, is how do we actually capture enough network to actually give people the value that we're promising them.
One of the other things the students will be thinking about is this notion of coactions. So coactions is where we try to think about negative, positive or neutral outcomes as a result of interaction. So have you given a lot of thought to the possibility of everyone being able to win from your actions, or do you see it as inevitable that there will be some either losers that may, as a result of Velvet's entry?
Yeah. So I like to. I'm a pleaser by nature, so I like to think that everyone is going to benefit from what we do. I think that from our customers' point of view, no matter which side of the market you're on, everyone's a winner there. I think that really the people who are going to feel some negative impact are the other telecommunications companies that we take customers away from.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's interesting to try and contemplate, isn't it, how everyone can win. It's not always possible, obviously, but it's an interesting thought process to explore.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a much more preferable thing for me. I mean, I've always worried about, in certain ways, we're really a small company trying to take on big telecommunications companies with billions of dollars of revenue, or at least hundreds of millions of dollars, and here we are, just this tiny little sort of entity. And if I didn't have to worry about them trying to push back on us, that would be a great weight off my mind. So if anyone can give me a solution of how all of us can win, then happily take that on board.
Cool. And from where you see yourself in terms of, are you still a very short-term focus, or do you already have one foot sort of stepping forward to a long-term sort of scaled-up type of outcome?
Yeah, so I think that I'm kind of a bit of both, and in the sense that there's sort of like that mantra of think globally, act locally. Well, I sort of think long term but act short term at this point in time. Right now, I have sort of big ambitions for the future, but to get there, I would definitely need to sort of hit some very short term milestones, and that's what we're currently really focused on.
I imagine one of the challenges you face, David, is that in trying to work out whether you've got a specialised offering or a generalised offering. I mean, every morning I get on the train to come to work, every person around me, old, young, blind, whatever, they've got their phone out and they're looking at it. So the internet is incredibly ubiquitous.
Yes.
So do you sort of identify a specific type of user that you want to be connecting to, or do you really see that sort of almost nirvana of everyone could be a customer?
Yeah, so I guess there's it's interesting. I mean, we've done a lot of work on market segmentation, so we definitely have very specific markets that we sort of see ourselves sort of capturing over time. But there's something that I've said to those close to me ever since I've sort of started working on Velvet, and that is ultimately somewhere someone has to pay for internet, and ultimately I'd like them to pay us. That's so for us it's a very general, in the broadest high level sense of where we want to be. It's very general.
Okay. And the last issue is this, and by no least last, because for me it's the thing that I'm most passionate about, is this issue of energy. So when you think about energy, we talked about it very briefly just a minute ago, do you see other things that are independent of you that you can start seeing yourself trying to tap into, be they trends, government policies, other businesses' actions, that you can see you being able to sort of stay in the shadows of and succeed from?
Yeah, I think so. And definitely there's a whole bunch. There's some really cool stuff with closing the gap and getting remote communities online. And in fact, we're actually engaged with a project to do something very similar to that, to bring remote Indigenous communities online. But sort of outside of that, I mean, if there's one thing that the internet's used for, it's content, and especially sort of like your music and your video content. And I think the other telcos know that too. So something that we would love to see is great partnerships with other content providers to be able to deliver that value to our customers.
Fantastic. So, in terms of the how-to statement that you've been thinking about for the students, what's the challenge for these guys?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned earlier, there's a physical limitation for our devices, one of our big things. So what we in the short term, what we want to do is we want to target people who are in close quarters. So the how-to is, say we pick some apartment complex at some street address, and we specifically want to launch into that apartment complex as a whole. How do we launch into that apartment complex and initially capture and dominate that market in the short to medium term, but over the long term maintain the velvet presence, and so when new people move in, they're aware of the product and they sort of tap into their neighbours' shared Wi-Fi, and so the ecosystem becomes self-sustaining.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I guess there are some sort of important limitations to sort of to kind of box that. So our hardware, imagine that you have an apartment, it's in a grid, the apartment's the center box. Consider the Wi-Fi signal can go to any apartment within immediately adjacent to the sharer's apartment. Yep. So you've got the middle one, they can go to any 8 apartments that surround it, and the apartment that's immediately across the hall, if there is one.
Yep. So
up to 9 apartments, not including the sharer's apartment itself, can be serviced through our hotshot device, which is a Wi-Fi router.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, some students view this process as an assignment, a university assignment, and they may be viewing it a little bit in a sense that all needs to be written down nice and neatly. And in this case, they're going to be producing a video for you. Any suggestions in terms of your personality? What you like to see? I mean, are you looking for some humour to come through in their pitch to you? Are you looking for, ticking all the details off? I mean, what is it that you are attracted to when you're engaged with content?
That's a really interesting question. I'm not sure if I have a really ready answer, but. For me, what I ultimately want to see is engaging content that really solves our problem, that answers it quite concisely, without sort of room for movement. I like to see something that's very tangible, but at the same time engaging.
Lovely.
Yeah.
let's see what they can come up with.
Yeah, perfect.
Wonderful. Cheers, David.
Thank you.